keep your head inside the car. We are back with Hereditary on Disney Channel.
Hey, fun fans, it's We Enjoy. It's a news and news episode, so you know what that means. Yeah, that's right, news and use. Let's get into it. We have the Mattitude Eric. I am Matt Fowler. Say hello, Eric Goldman.
Hello, everybody. Not just a clever name. Not Eric Goldman, news and use. Not just a clever name.
Should we call our podcast The Shitty Beatles?
Absolutely.
Why not? Why not? How about we rebrand every week, and then that'll keep our listeners on their toe ears. Hey, what were you gonna say for the podcast, Eric? I said save it for the podcast. Did you save it for the podcast?
But I don't even know how I save it for the podcast. It was more the silliness of the fact that we managed to quickly do some strange wraparound reference talking to each other that evoked 1989's movie The Wizard, the catalog of Red Hot Chili Peppers, and 1991's The Hard Way.
Good pull for remembering the year for The Hard Way.
Might have been 1990. Might have been 1990.
Well, when would LL Cool J have eaten a frog dog?
Like what year? I was right. 91, which tracks because Christina Ricci was in Mermaids First, which was in 1990. So there you go. Anyway, it was a strange, silly referencers with our references that it sounded like we sounded like
two guys who, if they were standing next to us in a line,
we would be insufferable.
We would be so annoyed with them.
Yes.
We would hate them so much, even though we would be doing the same exact thing. Because if other people do it, it's terrible. But if we do it, it's genius. Okay,
it's great.
All right. We've got quite a bunch of news that piled up. You'd think we skipped 2 weeks, but we didn't. Though, let's get into some in memoriams here, because this almost happened like right after we recorded last week. So Nicholas Brendan died, who is best known for playing Xander on Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and also on, I don't know, Criminal Minds. Every article written about him had to mention whatever procedural show he also was on that I did not see.
Sure.
But the lead story here is that he's part of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, not whatever bones he was on. I don't know what it was. But yeah, Nicholas Brendan, now the second cast member, right? I mean, like youngish cast
of the main cast, sure.
The main cast, he's like part of the core four, the originals.
Yeah.
But because Michelle Trachtenberg sadly passed last year, and now we've got Nicholas Brendan, though long-time struggler, he struggled with addiction and drug abuse and physical abuse, domestic partner abuse. So.
Well, he was the one, we should be clear. Yeah, it's like he had a very troubled life.
No, he did not struggle with being abused. He was the abuser.
Yes. Yeah, substance abuse, apparently mental issues, did some terrible things that made it all very complicated. I did like, there was a lot of, the Buffy cast, which is just awful, obviously a year after Michelle Trachtenberg, now having to lose someone else that they work with. And, like Charisma Carpenter had a very nice post that was basically about, like, I remember the guy I worked with who I loved, like, basically acknowledging
she did put it nice. She's like, she was basically like, I choose to remember the past Nicholas Brendan and not like what he became because of his, addictions and health issues, mental issues, or whatever they were. But yeah, for decades now, he's been in this pit, really. And so, complicated legacy. Again, it's another thing where it's sort of like, because Chuck Norris passed, and it got big headlines too. And most people younger than us will just know Chuck Norris from
the memes.
From literally 20 years ago at this point. The Chuck Norris jokes.
Kind of an early meme when I think about it. Yeah,
it was. Sure. And, it still was on the early internet. And it was also, when I was playing World of Warcraft, and it was just overflowing with Chuck Norris jokes in the Barons chat, which was an area, and you could just chat on there, and people would not stop with the Chuck Norris jokes. And again, even the people at that point making those jokes
never seen his movies.
Who he was, never saw, and again, never seen his movies, let alone his long running TV show, which was meant for old people.
Yeah,
Walker Texas Ranger. So, but again, talking about his legacy is also complicated because he was like crazy MAGA. So it's like you want to like be like acknowledge somebody, but you don't have to like celebrate the aspects of them that you don't want to. Be sad they die, but you don't have to celebrate their life if you don't want to. But yeah, so the Buffy cast was very sweet. All the pictures, of course, of Nicholas Brendan were from 30 years ago at this point. The young Nicholas Brendan as Xander. I feel a little, again, it's all complicated, but I also feel bad because he was in a role that at first was beloved, like at this like the nerdy guy who was pining away for people who didn't see him, and that was definitely a trope for many years in movies, and now doesn't age well, right? And so I have not rewatched Buffy in a long time, but I know that people who have gone back, and people who have watched it for the first time now with retro eyes are like, people liked Xander, like when we loved Xander, that's right. And so it's even harder when you play this character that now people think is a big fucking pain in the ass.
Yeah, and I don't know if I'm overdue for a Buffy rewatch, although it's a show I've watched multiple times. But yeah, I know I'll still like Xander. Doesn't mean I'm gonna like everything they do with Xander. Almost every character eventually has a storyline where I'm like, why did they do that with them? But Xander's role obviously was to be the everyman, especially as the show progressed and they gave almost everyone powers but Xander. It was kind of like, and they kept him as like the everyman. And he did that very well. He was very likable, very funny on the show, and was sort of supposed to be like the normal guy's eyes. That's why there's such a great episode of Buffy that is from his perspective. That it's kind of like here's what's going on in Night of the Life of Xander, while everyone else is doing kind of bigger things. Very important part of the show. It's also funny to look back on season 1 when he was the only male series regular except for Anthony Stewart Head, who was playing her mentor. So the posters of season 1 are just Sarah Michelle Gellar and Nicholas Brendan. Because like Angel was a character in season 1, but he wasn't a regular. So they were almost like, if you look at the posters of season 1, they clearly are like, I guess this guy's like WB's like,
it's like we can't just have all women on the.
Well, like, we have to insinuate there could be a love story, so we'll put these two characters on the poster, right. Which is funny. But yeah, huge part of the show. I do think ultimately, even if people, there were some people who kind of turned on the character later, for the most part, a very beloved part of the show. That he was great playing, and so it sucks obviously what happened for the rest of his life, but
I mean, people do this to friends too, but look back at at least when people look back at Seinfeld, if they choose to do so, they were always awful people. So it was sort of like they're all pieces of shit, just like I remember them. But yeah, people have done this with Chandler, and especially a lot of old sex comedies where the goal was to lie your way into bed with somebody. That was a big deal.
Strangely, it's funny.
Xander never did that, but
no. What's weird is Nicholas Brendan, strangely, this is a humble brag thing I'm about to say, I think he was one of the only series leads on Buffy I've never spoke to, even though I was in the room with him multiple times. I have pictures of him, I was at things he was at, but everyone else I spoke to, because the big thing I remember being at with him besides a public Buffy event was the night I went to see the Sick and Twisted Animations Festival after I got off a shift at the Virgin Megastore, and half the Buffy cast were sitting behind me, and it was Allison Hannigan, Seth Green, Eliza Dushku, and Nicholas Brendan. And everyone else I just mentioned I've spoke to, but for some reason I never spoke to Nicholas Brendan. But it was
could his identical twin brother just take over for him at cons?
Oh yeah, I guess he could. Kelly, yeah, absolutely possible. But yeah, it was a stars they're just like us moment, Matt, because there they were, Buffy people watching Sick and Twisted Animation, just like me.
Just like you. It's like when Gillian Anderson was in Gillian Jacobs. Gillian Jacobs? I don't know.
You went on a journey there.
Who are you talking about? The GIFs thing has
Gillian Jacobs from Community, I believe, is who you want.
When was that like a PWG show or something? Yeah. Anyway. So and I think also this came like right on the heels of the Buffy revival falling through, and there was sort of like this caused it anyway. So
yeah, I'd like for the Buffy
and not cast... his years and years of substance abuse.
Well, the reason, I mean, again, who knows? Because the reason he did have some like congenital heart issue or something like that. They listed his death as natural causes, but knowing what the substance abuse, you can't help but wonder, even if he did have a real life thing, what factored in, but that's neither here nor there.
I mean, you
My
could drink yourself into a heart attack and it's still a heart
Sure.
attack. So
Yeah.
yeah,
My
like
main thing is I would definitely like the Buffy cast to stop dying. I think that would be great. It's 54 is way too
well,
young. Michelle Trachtenberg was obviously way too young. So that would be good.
a scientist, a famous scientist named Dr. Soren once said, "Time is the fire in which we burn." Eric,
Hmm.
and I just want to bring this up that Nicholas Brennan was 54 years old, so it's only 4 years older than you and me. And I also want to point out, for your benefit and mine, that uh, senior living facility, not like assisted living, but like
Yeah.
apartment complexes for active seniors that just want older residents. Eric, they start at 55. So we're only 5 years away of being able to move in to one of these raging active senior
Oh, hell
apartment
yeah.
complexes. Yeah. We'll be the young bucks
and
there.
and then we're gonna play "Let the Bodies Hit the Floor." I do
I
think
mean,
the
that's
only
that's not something to joke about because there's probably an ambulance in that cul-de-sac every single
That's
day
why
picking
it's
someone up.
funny.
Oh,
That's
okay,
what's
yeah.
funny. The older I get, the more I do think it's funny that our music we grew up with is a certain is yeah. I think I've mentioned on the podcast. It's funny that and this is not like a oh these kids today whatever. It's just right now there's such a prevalence of like a certain type of pop music and rock is really struggling that it's like we listen to like a lot harder music than is currently being listened to, and that is a funny thing knowing that we are old people now that it's like it's just this thing
Yeah,
about
yeah. The
that.
thing is, though, is that you and I also have no real way, and maybe it's because we don't know what metrics to look at or what source to
Yeah,
look at of what's successful.
right.
Because we don't have there's no more radio, there's no more like the album sales are just a completely different thing that they don't exist the way they did when we were younger. Like so you can't drive it on album sales, you can't go by like this is no DJ is out there telling us this is a hit song. All I
Yeah,
know is that a lot of acts show up at all these multiple festivals that have like 100 plus acts in them. So who's to say who's successful and who isn't? I just went to an incredible rock and roll / heavy metal / punk show in Arkansas by Die Spitz, who is a band that I really, really love. And if you want to check out some actual metal that's happening right now with four young women from Austin, even though the name of the band is German, I recommend Die Spitz.
I was
And
gonna say is die has in the, and you
yeah,
answered my
it means
question.
like the edge or the jagged, the sharp or something like that. But anyway, they were a lot of fun. It had been a long time, Eric, since I had seen a pit, much less been in a pit. And
I
it
bet.
was just really good. It had a really good feeling because it wasn't violent, but it was physical but not violent. And no one was a dickhead, but I got drink spilled on me, but it was all in good fun. And like I went to a Mr. Bungle show last year, 2 years ago, and when they've been touring with their thrash metal album, and I was like, oh my god, is this going to be a violent show? No, because it's all old people, and we just stood there with our arms folded, and like, even though the music itself warranted a pit, but maybe so I was just happy that this was a young college crowd, and so that they were keeping this alive and going.
That's excellent. Do you know how I first learned that die means the in German?
The Fledermaus.
No, and I realize as I ask this, a lot of people will instantly think of The Simpsons, the die Bart die, when it's like,
Oh,
no,
V Bart V, yeah.
yeah. But I first learned it in the Spider-Man and Wolverine one shot, which takes place in Germany, and Peter doesn't have his costume, so he has to buy a Spider-Man costume from a store in Germany, and it says "Die Spider" on the back. And that's it. And and of course there's some jokes about it saying "Die Spider" on the back of his costume. That
All
C
right.
Marvel teaches. Hey, as you were talking about metrics and the how strange it all is today. Let's talk about the surprise renewal next because I think that's a good. It's a
Yeah,
good.
that's fine. Because also, let's say I just want to bring up the fact that uh, it just popped in my head when you're talking about like people don't listen to hard music the way they used to. Like
Mhm.
System of a Down's Toxicity like debuted at #1 on the Billboard charts. You know what I mean? Like it would never be that type of music would never be a #1 album today. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. So this was, I would say it takes quite a bit to surprise you and I
yeah.
in this modern era of entertainment news because everything comes back. This is something I definitely never thought would come back because we did a breakout episode for it. The ending was great, so there's a little bit of me that was sort of it sort of mourns this because it was a great ending. But
Hmm.
Wonder Man has been renewed for a season 2, which not only was surprising, but it's also super rare for an MCU show.
Only the
I
third
mean, people,
one.
but I mean, like it's interesting because like Loki was the standout like from the previous batch. Born Again feels different, you know, as far as season twos go and far as like MCU Disney Plus shows go. So and Wonder Man itself is even more different because it's not even like a superhero show. It's a guy about a guy trying to get an acting gig. So but yeah, Wonder Man has been renewed and both stars are returning. I could attempt to try to say the lead actor's name again, and I always butcher it. But
Yahya Abdul Mateen the second.
Yahya Abdul Mateen the second and Ben Kingsley are set to return. I am also very excited about Yahya Abdul Mateen the second's Man on Fire series. It's coming out at the end of this month on Netflix, where he plays John Creasy. So very excited about that.
And and also we should mention that because a lot of these shows do end up getting changeover on the creative team. It's Destin Daniel Cretton and Andrew Guest are continuing on with the show.
Yeah. And so even the Wikipedia page for this still says, and it'll change at some point, Wonder Man in parentheses miniseries.
Right.
Like it says that. Like,
yeah, this was a big surprise because we all felt, even before it premiered, we're like, look, this was a show greenlit under the old kind of everything for, you know, Disney Plus needs content approach. So it was a show that wouldn't even be greenlit today as far as the character and the smaller scale approach of it. And so it just was like, hey, we got it. And it's really good. It was very well received critically. And it seemed to get really, you know, nice response by the fans. So it was like, hey, I'm glad we got this show, especially because it's the end of an era, this type of show. So what a strange surprise. Mostly I'm thrilled. Like, yes, I have the small trepidation that the way it ended and the fact that it seems really hard to go back to what the first season was with the way the first season ended. So a little trepidation, but mostly I'm just really happy. I'm happy, Matt, to be that surprised because it seemed no way this was coming back. Like it almost feels like this was like a screw you to everyone saying that, like, because everyone, whether they loved it or hated it, was like
everyone in there was everyone writing about it was like this is a sort of a oddball miracle that just sort of is going to exist. Enjoy it while it lasts. It's never coming back, etc.
Yes.
And then including us.
Us, yeah. And then what you were, the reason I said let's, you know, when you were talking about music metrics and how everything's hard to, that's the thing is like, and yes, I understand Wonder Man wasn't as expensive as some of the other shows because by its very nature, it had special effects, but it didn't have the amount of special effects that, say, WandaVision or some of the other shows had. Still, we kept hearing that Wonder Man was easily one of the least viewed of their series to date on Disney Plus, at the near the very bottom. But the funny thing is, Matt, we also heard that about Daredevil Born Again, which is currently filming season 3. All of which is to say, we don't, like, streaming will never really understand in the way we did TV, you know, network TV ratings, A, what the viewership really is, and B, what their metrics of success are, and how they're making. So it's very funny to think, wow, Born Again is going into season 3 filming. Wonder Man is going to season 2. That doesn't make sense if you look at what we're told are their biggest successes. Like Moon Knight, way more viewed from what we've heard than either of those shows, but not, and even Miss Marvel, which I would love to get a second season, was supposedly more viewed than these two shows, but we haven't had renewals for those, so who the hell knows?
I'll say this: System of a Down's Toxicity would never make it as a streaming series today.
It would not.
Yeah, it's very surprising. We don't know why they're doing what they're doing, who's blackmailing who's got dirt on who. Did someone make a deal where it's like, you get to make a series, and they're like, I want to, did Destin Daniel Cretton be like, I want to make Wonder Man season 2? Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I'm glad. Look, did it end super great? Yes. Does that mean that it can't continue to be great and also have a second ending that's great? No. Yeah, it could be great. So,
and look, and I'm just, I'm very happy. Love the show, and the fact that Ben Kingsley will continue to play Trevor Slattery into his 80s as he's continuing forward. Yes. This, like, kind of like, you know how
it's like it's still like even more of an ultimate fuck you to the Iron Man 3 haters. Like, it's just like, this is going to be one of the most the most important characters in the MCU going forward is the actor who you all got mad at. Yeah.
Right. You know how John Lithgow said, and obviously a lot of mixed reactions to everything about the project anyway, but how he's like, yeah, you know, I had to, when I agreed to do the Harry Potter series, I had to think about it because realistically it'll be the last thing I ever do because he's 80 and he'll be doing it for a decade. Again,
well, it's also sort of like, why you understand why they want to, when you have something that was going to take a long, long time and why you want to like not cast super old, it makes sense. Especially, and we can move on to this because you just brought it up. We're going to talk about the Harry Potter teaser a little bit because they released the teaser showing the,
Well,
the main three
I'll just
kids
finish.
and all
I
that.
just want to say that, yeah, my thought being that Ben Kingsley's like, you know what? Trevor Slattery's going to be the final role I ever play.
It could be.
Keep doing it.
But also it's interesting because I think the news came out about the Harry Potter show is that even though it's obviously this is a big production and each season is supposed to line up with each book, and we're going to get, for those who were mad that things got left out of books, this is for you. You can watch this series if you're still into watching Harry Potter at all. But they also said that it's not going to be an annual show, right? So it's going to be on par with like House of the Dragon and Last of Us, where it's going to be a few years between seasons, even. So the elder cast members, the last thing John Lithgow might play is just Dumbledore first season. Like he might not make it to season 2. Like he might not make it to Chamber of Secrets. So yeah,
it was a little. They said we don't think we can get to a season a year. Now, there's a big difference between the movie's cadence, because after the second movie, which did come out 1 year after, they realized that wasn't realistic for them, and it moved to a year and a half. Most of the Potter movies were a year and a half in between. If the show was that schedule, I think everyone would understand, accept it, and be like, yeah, that makes sense. It'll be about a decade. The kids who are the exact right age now will be like 3 or 4 years older than their characters at the end. That's fine. But yes, if we get into actual 3-year gaps between the seasons, then that would be an issue for multiple reasons. Not that there's already not a lot of things around this series.
This is crazy. First thing I'll say is that if you want to watch the new Harry Potter, that's fine. I think it's crazy to not acknowledge that Harry Potter as a book series has a huge fandom, a fandom that continues because they don't care about J.K. Rowling, and fandom that books that still mean a lot to people, even if they do now have fallen off and decided not to continue on because of J.K. Rowling. You have to acknowledge that this was very important to people. Like whatever the author's intent is or who they are in real life, the book spoke to people in a way that was really meaningful and enriched their lives and was a big part of it. This feels weird. Again, like you have to keep IPs going. You have to keep it with new, fresh things. You have to keep feeding coal into the furnace. So new Harry Potter. Now, I know how we all felt when they rebooted Spider-Man so soon after the Tobey Maguire trilogy, right?
Yeah.
And that was really weird. It was sort of the first time something like that really happened with a hugely successful thing that was multiple movies that soon in our lives coming back to us to retell an origin story, to retell everything, differently. Again, it was like none of them were like adapting a book, but like, there were certain beats you still had to hit. Uncle Ben had to die. And I know that was really weird. But what I say, this feels weirder. I don't know why, because
even though the gap's way longer,
even though it's a longer time between a movie and this TV show, and it's a TV show, so it's a totally different medium.
Yeah.
It feels weirder because these movies still feel like people still watch them.
Because
movie theaters still show them.
Yeah.
Right? Like there's nothing about these movies that have aged. So, and people just continue, and like this trio of kids is, that's Harry Potter, not this new kid. And so I don't know, it feels even more bizarre than the Spider-Man thing, even though that was closer together. This feels like, oh, it's weird because Alamo is playing Azkaban next week. It's like it's still airing.
No, it's the 25th anniversary of the first movie this year, which on one hand is like, hey, it's actually been 25 years. On the other hand, they're giving it a theatrical re-release because it's like Star Wars. It is, like you've said, it is perennially shown. It is a huge part of Universal theme parks, where the imagery and the actors from the movies.
Yeah, and for Star Wars, they've done a ton of Star Wars movies, but no one has recast Luke Skywalker. No one has recast Han. Well, they have recast Han.
Well, well, again, but with the Luke thing, like to the where the people debate about like, oh, the uncanny valley of doing like digitally recreated Mark Hamill versus just recasting someone. But yeah, it's so absolutely, it feels weirder, even though we've had many remakes that made within this same time frame. It just feels strange when it's such a current thing that we're going to remake it. And I guess that's the weird cycle of the J.K. Rowling of it all, because the fact that her real life beliefs are, so odious, but also the fact that They make making Cursed Child into a movie a non-starter because you know that the actors from the old movies who are they'd have to do if they there's no point in doing Cursed Child if you don't bring them back for a new movie, but they wouldn't want to do it, right?
Right.
Because it's like it's like it's this weird sort of trap. Now I say this with acknowledging I think this show will be huge, at least to begin with. And I think it's kind of deluding yourself as someone I understand. I think I agree with everything people think about J.K. Rowling as far as her terrible, terrible beliefs. But I also think that there's that thing where people delude themselves into thinking, and no one cares about Harry Potter anymore. No one's gonna go. And I'm like, well, no, that's absolutely not true.
Insanity.
Yeah. No one's gonna watch this show. They will watch this show. They absolutely will. Again, the show might be terrible and they'll stop watching, but they're gonna give it a shot. So yeah, but it's very watching this trailer, which yeah, the fact that it's so similar to the movies, the dialogue. There's a lot of talk about how they probably don't want to make the aesthetics too different because of the theme park stuff. So
they haven't.
No,
they haven't.
No.
If you watch the teaser,
No.
So we can talk about the teaser, but also it'll be interesting to see a retelling. Again, books have been readapted before. That's fine. Man on Fire, literally just mentioned in this podcast, was adapted into 2 movies. The one with
I heard they made
people...
they made Dracula a couple times, right?
Yeah, and I think Frankenstein's had his time in the sun. I think Dracula shouldn't be in the sun, but I would say that. But yeah, like watching this show, it's like if you're watching the show, you probably know the first movie really well. You know how the beats of the surprises.
Yeah.
Right. So I guess the challenge would be for the creators to like make it fresh in certain other ways, I guess, because you're going to know that why Quirrell's wearing that turban, like it's not going to be a huge thing. I do want them. I am curious to see how they recreate the famous wizard chess scene because it's been memed to death. It's like, not you, not Hermione. Anyway, so
yeah,
but yeah, this is what I'll say. So there's we catch glimpses of people in the new professor roles. You see Lithgow very quickly as Dumbledore. You see a bunch of other people, especially, but the focus is on Harry, and you do see Ron, you do see Hermione, and this is not an insult. This is just information because I don't want to pick on kids, but this kid as Harry Potter, he looks so much like Rachel Dratch playing Harry Potter on SNL. Like, it's distracting to me, where he just looks like a grown woman playing a little kid boy. Anyway, okay, that's what I'll say.
Yeah, it's weird, and yeah, it's again like we had with Scream 7, and I realize this is even more egregious because of how rich and powerful J.K. Rowling is and how she's directly saying, I take your money and I put it towards these horrible things.
Did she like demand her name be in the teaser?
That was interesting. What a choice, right? To put her name.
That's crazy. That almost feels like a kind of a weird, if it wasn't contractually from her or somehow, it feels like almost a bizarre anti-woke statement to do that.
To not just put from the beloved books, to put her name. Because someone posted the teaser for the first teaser for the first movie in reaction, which doesn't say her name. Yeah. It does say from the beloved series.
It's just gonna be like we're anti-politically correct, Yeah.
So but it's even more like we just went through with Scream 7, as far as like this is gonna bring up a lot of strange feelings that suck to be associated with a series that we would just like to love. And even though, again, I think we'd always be about them doing the show, but it's like I don't want to feel like weird and icky about Harry Potter, something that I do love as like a artistic creation. But now it's very hard to put that all aside. I say that knowing a lot of people will put that aside or just aren't aware because so many people do not follow this shit and they are just gonna be like,
and that's the thing is people think people who are in a bubble never know they're in a bubble, and that's the whole thing, which is like it's the same. It's like not a creator issue, but it's the same thing. It's like nobody wants a new Game of Thrones series. It's all the things that you fall into the negative internet discourse bubble, and you think that's how when you walk out the front door, that's how everyone's going to think. People do not wade around in the pool of entertainment news the way we all do. So
also
maybe they're like, look, Harry Potter fans are going to watch this no matter what. Let's get the awful anti-trans people to watch too. And so they're like, we actually put J.K. Rowling's name there.
Hey, everyone's desperate for them clicks.
Yeah, all eyes are equal. Like all viewing, all TVs are equal in the streaming universe for big companies.
Mhm.
This is something you wrote on the news docket, and I did look it up because it was very funny just to read out loud to myself. Eric wrote down the Koreans, and I was like, "Oh, here we go again." Eric ranting about the Koreans again. He won't shut up about it. Him and my grandpa both fucking won't stop, complaining about Koreans. But no, this is a new Disney Plus series
Hmm.
that is okay. So they've begun production on the Koreans, which is a reimagining of FX's The Americans.
Yeah.
Except instead of the Soviet Union and the United States of America, it's North Korea and South Korea. And it stars Korean stars and actors. So we've got how do you say Lee Bong Hung? I didn't
Young
watch
Hun,
Squid
who
Game.
is actually very well known at this point because Squid Game, he was in K-pop Demon Hunters, and he was Storm Shadow in two G.I. Joe movies.
I did see one of those at least. If
Yeah.
not, maybe I saw both. Okay, so and Han Jimin, our set to star, is North Korean spies living undercover in South Korea. And so it's set against the wave of democratization and cultural modernization that swept through South Korea in the early 1990s. So it's a 90s show, not an 80s show, and it's
Hmm.
North Korea and South Korea, not Soviet Union and America. And how much is it going to like take from the original Americans, like aside from maybe the pilot, and or what's the actual tone going to be too? Because it's Disney Plus, but now is Disney Plus just not for families straight up? Is it like a Hulu project sort of because it's FX?
Yeah.
Almost, is it just sort of like
Oh,
Born Again? Yeah,
this is
it has to be mature, right? Like,
no, this will absolutely be. Yeah, I mean, if not only just looking at the fact that Born Again is saying fuck and tearing faces off, but the fact that this is really going to
did
be
they even say fuck in season one?
no, they never.
Yeah, that's why it was really
Oh
jarring.
no, no, of Born Again, yes, but
Oh, they did.
on the
Okay.
Netflix show, I don't know if they ever said it. So it is funny that on this show,
No, they never said it in Netflix.
yeah,
Absolutely not.
yeah. I think they're saying even more now, but
I think they ramped up the F bombs, which is
yeah,
fine. But it's
but this is technically a Hulu show in the U.S. Doesn't matter at this point. It's all under one umbrella. But yeah, this is the adult section of Disney Plus.
I want to point out the fact that the Americans is amazing.
Hmm.
So I have high hopes for this show, but you should also watch the Americans. There's only you can probably count on maybe like two hands the amount of shows over the course of the last 30, 40 years that have ended perfectly, and the Americans is one of them. The other one is leaving Netflix soon, and you should watch it. It's called Black Sails, and it'll leave
Oh,
mid-April. So you
yeah.
should watch all 4 seasons of Black Sails too.
That is a great
Um,
show. Americans is fantastic. Yeah, one of my favorite shows. Trish and I both love it. We have a poster of it up in our bedroom. Great show. And this, this is, obviously it's not a new thing to do these international remakes and take formats and do it. This one, it sounds really intriguing. I got, a lot of people seem really kind of excited about it. Obviously, Korean series in general has become a huge sort of thing here in
yeah.
America. And so I think it makes a lot of sense.
So this is going to be a K drama, right? This is not going to be like a show for America just set in North and South Korea.
No, I
right?
think this will be made with the
Because it's
Korean.
got Korean stars, so
It's the Korean odd. I think it's the Korean
My
audience.
point is, like,
meant
90s
first.
music wise, it's going to be 90s Korean music, right? It's not going to
Right,
be like
but
fastball. Yeah. Okay.
and of
So,
course, K-pop being as huge it is, that can only maybe be a help. I
yeah.
saw some people again. I do not want to speak on this like I'm some fucking expert because I am not. I saw some people say it'll be interesting because culturally, North and South Korea are not as different as Russia and America as far as like,
Hmm.
these people having to, but there is still obviously huge differences. And yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense. The format of the show, again, yeah, if you haven't seen The Americans, you absolutely should, which is about Russian spies in deep undercover in the 1980s, where they've inserted themselves as a happy suburban couple and had children to be like, we're just a
And
normal
children who
American.
don't know that their parents are
Right.
spies. Yeah. That's
Based
how
on,
deep they are. Yeah.
based on things that have really happened, where it's like we are living amongst you, kind of your biggest scare of like the spies amongst us living our next door neighbors. It is a very intriguing, exciting format, and I can see why putting it into different scenarios like this, like North and South Korea, makes a lot of sense. And the fact that North and South Korea have such a difference from Russia and America, just the pure geographical closeness of them and the history there, I can see. I like what you were saying about. I'm sure they'll branch off. Maybe they'll use some touchstones, right? Like maybe some like, oh, that was an interesting story we could do our own spin on. But I also expect it to go in its own direction a lot. But yeah, I think it could work really well.
We mentioned Daredevil Born Again. We should mention that it was announced that Punisher is getting a one-shot special on Disney Plus
Well,
called
we knew
Punisher.
that a year ago. We just didn't know the title of it.
Punisher One Last Kill. It airs May 12th, which is the same day as the
No,
hour as it's not the same day as the finale of Born Again.
they've moved Daredevil so that season 2 and 3 are the same week. So there's one double week of Born Again, and then this will be the finale. So yeah, they announced this a year ago after Born Again season 1, and they even had we kind of knew it had to be before Spider-Man because they kept saying it would lead into Spider-Man. So this is like a bridge between.
Does this mean Punisher is not in season? Do we know that Punisher's
He's
not in season 2?
Yeah.
So he
not.
just escapes and doesn't do shit?
It's a good question, right? And I think this special will have to answer that question, right? What
Yeah.
because obviously everyone
It's just him on the fucking beach going, I don't want to work.
Well, I mean, I already
bang on the drum all day.
I already joked. I guess spoilers for the end of Born Again season 1, but I was also like, "Hey, Frank, couldn't you like Broken Jack and some of these other people out?" It's like,
Yeah,
suckers.
well.
But everyone is gonna make the same joke slash not joke about where is Spider-Man during Daredevil Born Again. But Frank's even more kind of egregious only because he's part of that world. So I'm sure this special will acknowledge where the hell he's been. Like why
he even sings part of that world, just like Ariel does.
Ah, that'd be great.
Yeah. And he's like looking at Matt Murdock from afar, just pining to be a part of that world.
And the poster's a big beardy close-up of John Bernthal as the Punisher.
Eric, you took off my news story about Jamie Lee Curtis playing Jessica Fletcher. I just want to, look, we have until December 2027 to see this movie, but Jamie Lee Curtis is going to be in a Murder, She Wrote movie playing the Angela Lansbury role of Jessica Fletcher, murder novelist who seems to stumble into murders. But yeah, so it's funny. It's fun because, I think they're looking for a new Knives Out, right? They're looking for a new sort of like murder mystery franchise that they could do. And Murder, She Wrote, I think works. And Jamie Lee Curtis is great. Murder, She Wrote, by the way, ran it through 1996, by the way. It was like 84 to 96. It was
hugely,
ever. Everyone's grandmother's favorite show.
I remember a few years ago there was gonna be, I think, a new series with Octavia Spencer that didn't end up happening.
I remember that. Yes.
Yeah.
I shut that down.
So. Like other people, I hope that they still use the Jaws attraction backdrop as Cabot Cove, where she lives, because that was its other usage on the Universal backlot. And I think Jamie Lee Curtis is a great choice for this. Jamie Lee Curtis becoming one of those people who, because people find a lot of her off-screen persona annoying, so then they act like she sucks as like an actress.
They do?
Oh yeah.
Eric, what bubble are you in? I'm not in this bubble.
No, so. she puts her foot in her mouth a lot. There's just times where they think like she's insufferable.
Is she doing impersonations of Bruce Lee like George Lazenby?
No. I mean, I don't need to go too.
I'm not in any of this. So yeah.
Anyway, my point being the off-screen, the even a different example of what we're talking about with like how many people are actually following J.K. Rowling's politics versus just in consuming Harry Potter is how many people care about what Jamie Lee Curtis is posting on Instagram versus she's a popular, well-liked, talented actress for decades. Like, the divide between all of that. Anyway, I think this is good casting again in a industry known for ageism, and it's not, once you're at a certain age, you're not allowed to be anything but moms and grandmas. I think even the fact that Jamie Lee Curtis got to star in these 3 new Halloween movies is impressive. Right. I know technically she was a mom in those, and a grandma. But the fact that Murder, She Wrote being a very popular title built around an older woman, this makes a lot of sense as a way to relaunch it. And I think you're right. I think you're right, Matt, that that Universal probably wants some of that Knives Out, that Knives Out.
Yeah. Speaking of thinking globally but acting locally, this feeds into our first Youse, our write-in, just very briefly from Kermit. Just asked, did you guys catch SNL UK? For those, we haven't really talked about it on the podcast, but SNL UK launched last week, the first Saturday Night Live, not in America, an actual UK version, UK cast, doing skits about UK related things that maybe we wouldn't understand. Tina Fey was the first host. I watched the monologue online a few days ago because it took like a day and a half for them to release it online. I was searching for it. And just like Born Again, they could say fuck, they could swear, they could do all these things. The monologue was funny. It had cameos by Michael Cera and Graham Norton. For those who don't know, you've probably seen many clips of celebrities being interviewed on the Graham Norton show.
His YouTube clips are big, yeah.
And Nicola Coughlan from Dairy Girls, which I believe I've recommended on the show. But yes, that's what I watched, Kermit. I only watched the monologue. I did not watch the sketches. I couldn't tell you about any of the cast members.
I've seen most of it. I've been watching it in little chunks as I eat lunches, using Peacock's. I don't have adless Peacock, so when it hits the commercial, I stop and go back to work. But I've liked what I've seen, and it is funny how much I don't get references and things that they're talking about.
I was wondering, like, is it really that much of a divide? But I guess so.
No, there's definitely is stuff that it's like, talking about modern politics or stuff that I'm like, I don't get that, or I only kind of get it. But I think that's kind of charming. That's not on them. That's on
no,
me.
not at all.
Yeah.
So one of my favorite parts of the monologue was when she did a speed round of a lot of British comedies. Like there was EastEnders and stuff there and stuff more modern. But like when I was growing up, I watched UK comedies on PBS, and I didn't understand 2/3 of it, but I loved it. Like Are You Being Served and Keeping Up Appearances and Hello Governor, especially Faulty Towers and especially Monty Python's Flying Circus, the young ones, like a lot of those 80s shows. And so I like that they got a lot of call outs there.
Yep. So yeah, I've liked what I've seen. And while even also saying it would be insane to think like this is the end all be all of what the show will be, because any show like this is going to have a learning curve and, figuring things out as they go. It was cool to hear Seth Meyers mention on the Lonely Island Seth Meyers podcast that he'd gone over and met with them a couple times. I think there was a lot of sort of cross-pollination and kind of here's how we do things.
Yes.
And, kind of going through it all. But anyway, a promising start.
I also want to point out the fact that I now am fully acknowledging that I said hello governor because we're so used to like hello governor, like as far as like making fun of Brits. The show is actually called Yes Prime Minister. Anyway, so not a governor and not aloe. It is Yes Prime Minister. Okay. We have another write in here, and you too can write in at weenjoypodcast@gmail.com, or hit us up on Patreon, which I get a lot of our notes from, including that last one from Kermit. This comes from Brandon from Arkansas. I wonder what part of Arkansas, because I was there to see Dice Spitz. Anyway, I was in Fayetteville, Brandon. I don't know where you were. So, hello, Mattitude Eric, longtime listener, first-time writer, first time. Much like Matt, I have been a longtime Bond head, I don't know if that's the term, since having the subject assigned to me as a topic for a research paper in high school American history class.
Oh, that's a good topic. All right.
Sure. I've watched all the movies multiple times except for On Her Majesty's Secret Service. Ooh. I bought into all the hate for George Lazenby, and I never went out of my way to watch this film, filing it away as a missable chapter in my headcanon. Your podcast over the film inspired me to finally watch it while on a 3-hour flight, and I agree with both of you. It's one of the top-tier Bond films. I would have loved to have seen more Lazenby in the tux. Since watching On Her Majesty's Secret Service, it has reignited my 007 fandom, and I've been making my way through the Roger Moore films. I would love to listen to a series with Matt and Eric's take on those campy but lovable romps for everyone's favorite British super spy. Keep up the good work, gentlemen. Knee lift, Brandon from Arkansas. Brandon, yeah, I would love to talk about certain aspects of Roger Moore films. I don't know if we have... Certainly not anytime soon another 7-movie Bond run. But,
I'm for it though at some point.
I mean, at some point, but yeah, it can get a little monotonous, I think, for listeners who aren't into Bond as far as the sameness of these adventures.
Right.
Especially because they do get cut and paste after a little while. Especially the Moore ones in a certain way. But the best Moore ones are Live and Let Die and The Spy Who Loved Me. And
yeah. I'm very glad to hear that this helped them reappreciate On Her Majesty's Secret Service.
That's such a good movie. Yeah,
it is. It's funny. I was thinking a lot about how obviously any long running franchise gets sequels that get kind of reevaluated and people being like, yeah, actually, this was a good installment, or sometimes just a cult following around that installment. But I was thinking about how there is a pretty specific parallel between On Her Majesty's Secret Service and Halloween 3 as far as being a movie that was easy to completely dismiss because it had egregiously something one time only element to it that like when I was a kid I was told that's the bad one, like that's the one no one likes, and now is a very beloved part of the series.
And funny enough, both feature Tom Atkins' ass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
Honor
man,
Majesty's,
Tom Atkins should have fought Bond. Now I'm sad that hasn't happened.
it would have been, or he should have played Felix Leiter at some, just give him a turn. Give every American actor a turn.
Hard drinking Felix. Come on.
What I'll say is that when we decided to do the Sean Connery Bond run, and I mentioned this on the Connery podcast, that he's not like my pinnacle of Bond, even though he is for most people who are into Bond films because of that. He just wasn't my aesthetic growing up.
Mm-hmm.
I was like happy to do the run because I knew we'd get to talk about On Her Majesty's Secret Service.
Same, yeah. That was my same thought.
I was like, as long as like we're also doing this movie and not just Connery, that is going to just sort of that's the last use we have, but that's going to sort of pivot into my gentle recommendation this week, which is a movie I had never seen, and I don't know why I stayed away from it. Maybe because it was off-brand Bond. Never Say Never Again. It is kind of delightful.
Oh my god! I forgot. I'm sure you told me you hadn't never seen it, but I didn't remember that.
I never saw it, and what I really liked about it, so at this point we mentioned that it was two competing Bond films that same year because it was Octopussy, right?
Yeah.
And at this point, Roger Moore was too old to play Bond. He would also play Bond for one more movie into his late 50s, but right. Like it was like, and it's also a way of like people age differently. Like I feel like a 58-year-old actor could play Bond now because people just look younger and people are in better shape.
Look at Cruise in the Mission movie.
Yeah, like so. I mean, it was just the era, but he did look super old, and he was also in View to a Kill. Like the Bond girl was. I think he realized that he was the same age as the actress's father who was on set, and he was like, maybe I should retire as Bond. But the thing about Never Say Never Again is that Connery as Bond in the movie is over the hill and nobody wants him to do anything. And they send him to that clinic because he fails like basically a field test. And so the spa part, because it's a remake of Thunderball. So the spa part that we talked about when we talked about Thunderball, he's sent there to recoup and just to get out of everyone's way. And they actually addressed it on multiple occasions, the changing times and that he's over the hill and passe and stuff like that. Stuff that actually in the Bond films wouldn't get addressed until Moneypenny starts yelling at Pierce Brosnan for being a chauvinist, misogynist dinosaur, You
mean
M's, what I say, Moneypenny? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure Moneypenny yelled at him about it too. But yeah. Even Moneypenny was snarky in those Brosnan films too, because she's like, as far as I know, James, you've never had me. And he's like, right. So anyway.
No, that's fine. I haven't seen that movie in
anyway, it was enjoyable also just to see new actors playing roles that you're familiar with, especially if you watch Thunderball a while. Also, the character Fiona is now named Fatima, and she throws a python into a dude's car and it drives him off the road and kills him, which is great.
I don't know. I don't want to promise for sure we'll ever do the more Bond movies, so I'd be up for it. But I also agree with you, Matt. It can be a little tough because there's so many in a row that with the samey feeling. But if we ever do, I think we should do a bonus episode of Never Say Never Again. That's what I was going to suggest anyway. And now that you're mentioning it, because I haven't seen that movie in forever.
But it's just interesting that my idea of Bond growing up was, and this was just sort of the public consensus, listening to Johnny Carson, listening to people make jokes. Like when I was a kid, Bond was a guy who was too old to be doing what he's doing. Like that was the thing. It's like, oh my God, Roger Moore's still doing Bond. Oh my God, Sean Connery's back. I didn't even know who the fuck that was in 1983. I'm like, who's this guy? Why are there two of these characters? Like, who's this chucklehead? Anyway. But yeah, the whole thing before Timothy Dalton got the role was like, Bond was an old man. Like that was...
Sometimes he was two old men. So, yeah.
Sometimes he was two old men in the same year. Okay, Eric, do you have any recommendations?
The only one I'll mention in passing, and Matt loves when I do one that only people in a certain part of the country can see.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. Although this is a
recommend a local restaurant too.
This is a tour. I saw the touring production of Beetlejuice the musical last year.
I think that's fine to recommend because it comes here. It comes to like it'll hit metropolitan areas. So unless sadly you live in the boonies, then you're not. Yeah.
And I really enjoyed it. The thing is, of course, it's been this sort of infamous thing the past 2 decades of like turning every movie into a Broadway musical. And there's like a cynical side to that of just like, this is what we do to get people to come in with name value, just like they remake everything because maybe people recognize the name. But I will say, like, I saw Back to the Future last year, and I definitely enjoyed it while also knowing it wasn't a great musical. Like, as a huge Back to the Future fan, I was still happy to see it and to see what they did with like the DeLorean on stage. It was fun. Beetlejuice is actually legitimately, I think, a good show. And that's what I kind of heard. I knew that the people were really into it. A fascinating thing about this, Matt, I meant to post about this and I hadn't, so I can talk about it here first. We walk in, Trish and I, and we're seeing a matinee at the Pantages on Sunday afternoon. And, it's packed and there's a lot of kids. And I'm like, oh, that's great. Like these kids must have been introduced to the movie and they're into Beetlejuice. Awesome. Then it slowly starts to be a realization. No, these kids, mostly girls, are really into this musical. And they know the songs, and they're cheering. There's a Girl Scout character that opens Act 2 is not in the movie, and they're like, "Yay!" And so it was this strange thing to realize. Oh, this musical has kind of honed in on a certain specific audience. It was really fun. The second act kind of takes a little more liberties than the first with like where it goes story wise, but I appreciated that. I wasn't angry. It's not matching it beat for beat. Cast was really fun, and they do some really fun stuff and some fun numbers. I like that the song, the Beetlejuice is Gonna Marry Lydia song, is called Creepy Old Guy and just is a constant joking about the fact that she's an underage girl supposed to marry this.
That's also about James Bond.
Yeah, it's also about James Bond. I think, the one funny thing, and I do remember someone posted this to me because when Beetlejuice came out, there was a throwaway line that I thought, oh, that's interesting. And it feels like sequel bait, which is when Lydia is talking to Delia and they mentioned that Lydia's mom is still alive. And I was like, oh, so it's a divorce and you could bring in some big actress as Lydia's mom. And especially now that Catherine O'Hara, R.I.P., would not be in another sequel. Actually, that last movie even kind of wrote her out. Anyway, when I posted that at the time, people said, oh, that's funny. The musical says her mom's dead. It's a huge part of the musical. The opening is her at her mom's funeral. So it is funny that it's this very different. It's the multiverse of Beetlejuice, Matt. But anyway, it's a really fun show. And they take stuff. The interesting thing to me was that there's no Elfman score, and I wonder if that was an artistic choice or something with the rights where they couldn't get them. They do get the Harry Belafonte songs, which would be licensed separately. So there's a couple beats in the score where you can tell it's meant to be a nod to the Elfman score, but it's all original songs, and they're fun, and the cast is really good, and Beetlejuice is in way more than the movie, but in a way that I think works. If it comes to your town, I recommend Beetlejuice the musical, and maybe you'll have a lot of kids around you who are really, really already into Beetlejuice the musical.
You know how many minutes he was in the first movie? Because it is a thing where it's called Beetlejuice, but he disappears for a vast stretch of that movie and isn't in a lot until really the end. Does he have like as much screen time as Hannibal Lecter did in Silence of the Lambs?
I think it's about on par, yeah. And I will say the sequel, which I enjoyed, it's not amazing, but I think it's an enjoyable sequel. I was very impressed, and they talked about it, but that they still showed restraint. And he's in more, but he's not all over that movie in a way you'd think he might be. That they still
I could have done with more him and less Justin Theroux, and I like Justin Theroux.
I agree.
There was too much of that character.
But I did think it was to Michael Keaton's credit that he actually felt it was better if he pops up rather than be all over it. But he is all over the musical, but I think in a way that works. Like they use him as a narrator almost, like no one can see him, but he's talking to us.
Theroux just got married to Secret Service agent from Paradise. You're up to speed on Paradise, right? I don't want to spoil things for people. Anyway, he just got married to her. So there you go. I mean, there's more than one female Secret Service agent, so you can look it up yourself.
I was going to say, depending on who it is, that might be an age gap.
I think it is. I think it's an age gap.
All right, Hollywood. That's a classic Hollywood.
What are you going to do? Again, how old? Let me see how old. I just wanted to check how old he is because we were just talking about like men in their 50s playing James Bond. Okay, so he's 54.
Yeah.
And if he was playing James Bond, no one would be like, he's too old. You know what I mean? Like, but when Roger Moore did it in Octopussy, everyone was like, get this fucking singer, get this guy to a 55 and over apartment complex because he's too old. Okay.
By the way, his new fiance is 32, which is actually older than I thought because she looks really young. If you told me she was like 24, I would have guessed that. Anyway.
Yeah. There you go. So it is you could sing creepy old guy in the Beetlejuice musical still. There you go. Okay, so yeah, that's the news and news for this week. And until next time, everything is possible, but nothing is real. And Shockma.
Shockma.